are the universe, so beautiful. Through all of the hurt, we'll stand invincible, so beautiful. We'll take on the world. We'll take on the world.
Hi, Ted. Welcome to the Hysterical Society Feminist Podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of these episodes on male allies. I'm so excited to welcome you and to hear what you have to share with us.
Well, I'm happy to be on here. It's an adventure for me being on a podcast, and I want to get my message out. I feel like it's being ignored by so many people, and
I appreciate that so much. Me too. That's one of the reasons why I made this podcast, so that we can have our voices be louder and more voluminous than the bad guys that are out there trying to take everything away from us. So I wanted to ask you, because I met you on social media as part of the folks that I connect with about reproductive rights for women across the country. And I saw that you were very active, especially being in Texas. So I wanted to engage with you on the podcast and hear a little bit more about how you got involved in political activism.
I know we're going to get into abortion rights. And before we get started, I want to make it clear that I'm going to use the word women, but I mean that in an inclusive manner. I do mean as it affects persons assigned female at birth inside the LGBTQ plus community. I'm using women to express them inclusively.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It is confusing when you're talking specifically about abortion, because it is people with uteruses, so women's rights should include trans women, but abortion rights should include trans men and everybody in between who has a uterus. So yeah, it's confusing.
Yes, it is.
So what got you involved in reproductive rights specifically?
When the Supreme Court draft decision against Roe came out, everybody went to the streets the day afterwards here in Austin, and so it was May 3rd, 2022. I went to my first rally, and that was turned into 4 rallies. I started out the federal courthouse, and there was another group up at the Capitol, and that group came down and reinforced the group at the courthouse. And so we had a second rally at the courthouse, and then we marched through the middle of the streets of Austin back up to the Capitol and had a big rally. And after that, it went real crazy. We just took over the main street of Austin, which is Congress Avenue, and traffic was just had to stop and bear with us because we had the road. And that was all exhilarating to have that much power that night. After we went down about 8/10 of a mile on that road, we turned off and meandered ourselves back to the Capitol one last time. Did some chants and people started to dissipate, but I hung around because my adrenaline was flowing. Finally, a small group formed up, and although my legs were exhausted and my feet were terribly sore, my adrenaline got the best of me and I went on down. So I joined up and we started again. I had no idea what was going on, and we marched north from the Capitol. And finally, at the end, we ended up at the south end of the University of Texas campus. And then, after a couple of minutes of people talking, I realized I joined the students that were going back home. But that's okay. And we had marched almost 7 miles by the time all this was done.
Wow.
And I had marched over with my sign. So I claim I walked almost 8 miles that night for women's rights. So there were about 6 of us there that had joined this group and they had to get back downtown. We got an Uber and I said, I'm buying drinks. So we went and we were the last protesters standing and drinking and toasting together that
I
night.
love it.
And no, it really felt great. And for such a cause. Women have a special place in my heart. So I don't want them to be destroyed by evil.
Hmm.
That's what I think we're dealing with here.
How did people react to you being part of this big abortion rally? you being, no offense, an older white male?
I got a few compliments that night, but I kept showing up. And so
Yeah.
I started getting more compliments 'cause the white males that kept coming back were few and far between. And probably the most memorable chant that I can remember is "Fuck Greg Abbott," and everybody got great pleasure out of that. The most special time of that period was my trip to Washington, D.C. in June of 2022. I'd been planning to join with the Austin chapter of the Poor People's Campaign to participate in the big rally on the National Mall. So I decided to go up for an extended 5-day vacation in DC. Just before I left Austin, I found out that the National Organization for Rise Up for Abortion Rights would be holding a rally at the Supreme Court on my first full day in DC. So I got my sign prepared and joined them on the 15th in front of the Supreme Court, and people were on the bullhorn, and they gave me the bullhorn for 45 minutes. And I got on a rant against MAGA fascist old white men, and the whole time I was just cussing them out. And the social media person took 30 seconds of video that was taken of me and put it up on TikTok, and lo and behold, it went viral. Their body, their choice. The hell with MAGA fascist old white men. I got over 3,000 lovely comments from young women, and the most prominent message is, "I want you to be my grandpa." What, that just was amazing, and got great pleasure of being able to make that stand. It was just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we all appreciate you on behalf of all women and people with uteruses. Yes, we thank you so much. So you talked a little bit about how you had just moved to Austin right in the throes of when they were suffering under the new law SB 8. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved there.
So yeah, the infamous bill, despicable, deplorable, disgusting bill, is the Texas Heartbeat Act, and it's the Texas Senate Bill 8. It basically bans abortions after the detection of embryonic or fetal cardiac activity, which normally occurs after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. Most women don't even know they're pregnant until sometime after 6 weeks. It also imposes severe criminal charges to people who support women in getting abortions. So yet another nasty aspect of this bill. A woman must carry a non-viable fetus to excretion. How deplorable is that? A woman that doctors know her life's in danger from a pregnancy have to carry the fetus until they are near death. And of course, this whole thing's caused a lot of confusion in the hospitals, but it ends up they're having the lawyers or talking to the doctors, not focus as much on the women, and they make them wait until they're near death. I just get disgusted. As far as I'm concerned, this reaches down to the levels of depravity that the Nazis imposed on their proclaimed deplorables during the 1930s until the end of World War II. There are no shades of gray in these three conditions. These are clear-cut cases of good versus evil. What were the voters or the citizens of Texas thinking about SB 8 as we got into the final Supreme Court phase? The Texas electorate clearly, by wide margins, did not support SB 8. Politicians were totally out of line to force pro-democracy, pro-choice taxpayers to contribute our taxpayer dollars to fund the operation of theocratic, patriarchic crisis pregnancy centers that will promote anti-abortion propaganda to poor women coming in there for some kind of help. To me, it's like they're putting the fear of God into distraught, impressionable, young, pregnant women who instead need passionate, understanding care.
Yeah, absolutely. And they won't, the Hyde Act was put in place many years ago, and that makes it illegal to use taxpayer money to fund abortions. But oh, it's no problem to use taxpayer money to fund these bullshit crisis pregnancy centers. They are complete shams. There's like way more of them than there are abortion clinics in the United States, at least twice as many. They are just there to deceive young, naive people who need help and want counseling and to have to make a tough decision. And they're just there to sway them in the religious direction.
I am calling for men to stand up for the women they love and others they are close to. Many of you have wives, working mothers, sisters, daughters, girlfriends who are at a childbearing age. You know that a significant number of these women don't want to be forced to bear children in many cases, and especially when they don't get to choose when. And you are bound to know how bitter some of them will be if a patriarchic, theocratic government forces them to do so. 63% of women without children already have no desire to have a child. So we're not talking small numbers, 10, 20, 30%. We're talking about majorities of people that don't want to be forced into carrying a baby to term for various reasons. So I ask finally, please stand up for these women and for all of the other women out there who do not want to be subjugated to a second-class status when they cannot make their own choice.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of all women, thank you for standing up for us. We appreciate you.
Happy to do it.
We'll take on the world.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast episode where we're talking
Welcome.
male allies. And we love our male allies. We need more of you.
Exactly, more.
We need a lot more, but we love those of you that are out there that are speaking up, and you are one of the good ones that I came across in some of my social media over the last several months, and so I'm really thrilled to have you part of this episode.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm very welcome to come on here and speak with you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you again. So, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you live, like why are you passionate about reproductive rights and other things that are affecting those of us who are oppressed?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm Chuck Turner. I'm here from Northwest Indiana. I have two daughters, intelligent young ladies. One is a college graduate from business school, and the other one is going to college right now as well. My oldest right now is expecting in September.
Oh,
And we just found out that we're going to have another young lady added to the family. So
oh, Grandpa, that's
thank you.
so lovely. So, congratulations to you,
Well, thank you.
your family as well. But yes, somebody else to worry about.
Exactly. And then with that, because we years ago, me and my wife sat down and talked, and at the time she was more choice, and I was pro-life, pro-choice, kind of 50-50, should I say.
Sure.
And then now I'm a little bit, but I'm way more to the left of that now. I'm way more of the choice side now. And this must because of things that I just read here and some of just the political rhetoric coming from the other side as well. It's just unfriendly, unwarranted, and just not the progress we need for 2023.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, thank you for coming around and seeing the right or the left side of things, if you will.
Yes,
And
definitely.
we appreciate that. It's sometimes tough, but
Yes.
having an open mind is probably the first step of being a good person and able to evolve, with the times, which is important.
Right. When I got online and when I saw that, the right wingers on there, this on there saying that, oh, this is a big victory, the big victory. And the thing is, when I went to go kind of confront them on some of these social media sites, they, some of them hit with some hard questions. So I said, you know what? I got to do a little bit more research myself. So
Mm,
I started digging. I started going on Harvard and Yale and seeing what their studies were and what they were talking about. And then I had to kind of brush up on what I knew, but then I had to enlighten myself on what I knew
yeah.
and where I could be better, be more prepared for the rhetoric. The leaders of these groups, I mean, they've done their research, but they leave out large portions of what is true. They only put in there the portion that people want to hear, that their crowd wants to hear.
So you did actual real research and you
Yes,
discovered things for yourself, which so
yes.
many people don't do. They just, yeah, they just sort of regurgitate the rhetoric. What does
And
it
then
mean?
they don't think for themselves, and especially here in Indiana, they say their Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, but I begin to believe it's that orange guy down there in Florida who's their real Lord and Savior.
What else are you worried about for the future?
For the
Anything?
future, like what the Supreme Court just took away, the affirmative action. You're looking at, poor inner city communities, and what would be the thing to fix them? It's definitely, it's definitely not going to just take one thing. The
Yeah,
right, they're beating down the doors. More fathers need to be in the homes. How are you going to put more fathers in the homes when you don't have the right economics, the right jobs, the right health care to
right.
put them in the homes and to keep them in the homes? And that's the problem. And I think that's something that we really need to sit down and talk about.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And you're right. It's not one thing, like many things needs to come together to bridge the gaps and all the divides and the division that we now have. Much worse
Yes.
when I was younger.
Years ago, some of these communities out here in Indiana, I mean, a black person, coming through there, I mean, it wouldn't be allowed, or a Latino family moving in, it wouldn't be allowed. It was crazier. It's gotten a lot better, but it's kind of like some people are like, okay, well, it's gotten better. Let's just stop. No, it's a lot further to go. Say with Black Lives Matter a few years ago when the no George Floyd thing came about, I saw my youngest daughter get more active. Just having conversations, and I've heard from at least 4 or 5 people that are Caucasian that they think that the most discriminated group right now is white males, and I'm like, um, that's not true. Let's sit down and let's think that one over a little bit more.
What can you say to other men like you who care or maybe should care about how they can help or why they should be helping um,
Okay.
with any issue?
It's the thing of, and it's a an argument I got online with a certain individual, and I told him, like, he said men are protectors, men protect life. Men. I said yes, we are, but then again, we have to protect it. We have to protect, our women. We have to protect our daughters. We got to protect them so they'll be better, so they can, grow and be, you know, who they want to be as well. You're just looking at it from, you're saying, well, from conception. I'm like, yes, we do understand that it is a life that it does come at conception, but it's not a human being, should we say? Yeah, and it's going to affect all of us at one point in time. So we're going to have to, put our foot down and what we can accept. And because here's the thing, you can't put bans on certain things and then expect that, because now you're going to have different rule books for different people. Where does the slippery slope end at? Because the thing is, if you look at it one way, yeah, if you do it this way, how far will they go this way? If you do things another way, how far will they go? But then that's how societies like Iran and Saudi Arabia and other religious ran societies have gone.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
started out one way, and it sounded good, and then you realized this isn't what everyone signed up for, and it's too late at that point when you got
Yeah.
people who are so extreme going in a certain direction.
Yeah, and I think for me, especially these extremists, whether it's abortion or other topics, it's this religious thing. We have separation of church and state, and we got to keep it that way. And you can have your religion, and you can subscribe to whatever your beliefs are, but don't be trying to infringe those things on me and others,
And then and there's so much don't tread on me. I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
so but you're trying to tread on everyone else. So
right
what are
on
you doing?
everybody else.
Exactly. So I
Uh,
mean, it's kind of like, wait.
it is
And
kind of weird because it was always the Republicans were like government out of my backyard or stay out of my life, and yet but now it's gotten so extreme where they want to control what we read and how we handle what we do with our body and our healthcare and
and that's another thing I want to get on is
yeah.
when you start banning books, you start banning abortion, you start banning um other things, anti-discriminatory rules and laws. And then you look and see what's going to happen. And now they can implement any rule they want to because they've opened up the door for it to happen.
Right. It is a slippery slope. I think you said
It
that.
is.
But we are fighting back. Boom. Here we are with this podcast. Hopefully people are listening and will get inspired to continue to do great things. And
Yes.
is there anything else that you would like to share or shout out to the Hysterical Society?
Yeah, so the Hysterical Society, I definitely want to shout them out. Definitely keep on doing what you've been doing. I mean, there's other organizations and people out there doing trying to do as much as well. I mean, right now it's kind of at the infancy of some of these, but the thing is, we didn't think that we were had to bring these things out right now for this. We thought we were beyond civil rights because we had Obama as a president. It's some people that want to drive the bus backwards. And now we need to have these things in place now to where where we can move forward.
What is your message for other men like you? How to get them to help more?
You need to get more younger men involved. You need to get more, men who have families involved, men who, have daughters involved. And that's where it starts at grassroots ground level and it goes all the way on up. You have to get off of your ass, get out there and let your voice be heard. Because if you don't and sit back in silence, nothing will change. Nothing.
Well, we all appreciate you and other men like you. We do need you guys as our allies as we fight. And because we're not stopping ever for
No.
this fight. This is our fight for our lives. But thank you. It's so refreshing to speak to somebody like you who's out there in the red state and dealing with all the crazies. And but I appreciate you keeping your sanity and keep out there doing your thing. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'll keep on doing and you keep on your end as well.
As I will for sure. Thank you so much, Chuck. Appreciate
Okay.
you.
Are you welcome?
We'll take on the world.
Hello, welcome, Lee. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast. This is going to be an episode with male allies. So let's start. Why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you live and why you are interested in reproductive rights and why you got passionate on social media about that.
Okay, well, my name is Lee. I live in New Jersey. As for why I'm passionate about this, well, I went to college, had friends for gay, friends for trans, and as for women's rights, well, let's see. My upbringing, I was raised by a mother, a grandmother, great grandmother. I had many generations of women in my life, and I had many female friends, and I also am just disgusted at how a lot of the world's just trying to take everything back. How they're trying to almost solidify their own delusions of grandeur. Like women, people of color, the LGBTQ, the disabled, or anything.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's so many different things to get mad about.
The most pathetic reasons imaginable, mainly being greed, cowardice, egotism, narcissism, and toxic nostalgia. You assume that just because you yourself personally have pleasant memories from the past, you assume that it was always good all the time. You completely ignore everything else about reality, a lot of the horrible things, the darkness of the past.
Yeah. What kinds of things are you the most worried about?
Let's see, so many things. The erosion of civil rights, the erosion of equal rights, LGBTQ rights, and child labor laws being destroyed, and of course, the climate and the planet.
Yeah, it's a lot. But we're fighting back. That's one of the reasons why we have this podcast. It's been so refreshing to have you out there speaking up and doing great things on social media to help where you can.
And also, in a lot of ancient mythology, in a lot of Greek mythology, in a sense, they had LGBTQ characters. And even older than that, if you go back to Babylonia and Sumeria, there were a lot of characters that LGBTQ, there was bi, and even characters were hermaphroditic back then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I think lesbian comes from Lesbos is an island in Greece, I believe.
I believe
And
so too.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It does go way back. And obviously trying to control women goes way back too. What is your message for other men like you and,
Right.
how to get them to help more?
First, it has to come from within, and you can't be self-centered or self-absorbed. You have to open your mind and your heart, keep them open, active, healthy, and sound. You also have to understand that it's not always about yourself. My advice to you is this: take off the rose-colored glasses, take off the jade-colored glasses, and leave on the clear spectacles of the scholar. Simply, you look into the works in your role model, and you see that either some of them they were different than you imagined, or to think, what why is that things that were accepted back then? Why are they still accepted, or are they not accepted now? You generally have to look, and it requires a lot of introspection and asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's also one of the reasons why control women just in fear of what's different. Because I think that a lot of these homophobic, transphobic people, or those who are stuck in imaginary past, I think another reason that they do is because your existence and how you guys just living your lives. Because probably maybe in a sense it brings up questions about themselves that they do not want to ask. Instead of taking a healthy first step to start to ask themselves questions to learn more about themselves, they take the cowards behind and keep trying to hide everything imaginable, their skin, their gender, the role models of the past, the so-called traditions of the past, everything like that, and all for the sake of hiding from possibly where they really are inside.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really denying themselves their happiness. And yeah, you're right. They're sort of self-sabotaging because they're questioning their own existence, really, if they have those tendencies. I mean, I wish
I
those
know.
people would just see the light and they would realize that I mean, I'm not, I'm straight, but I think being gay is awesome. Like, it's so much fun. Anyway, so they should just relax and own it, because it is really wonderful.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Okay. Oh, amazing. Well, I'm so glad that you are who you are and that you have figured it out. And as a young person, you have a lot of great life ahead of you that where you can affect change and hopefully help, in these causes that we talked about. How else do you like to spend your free time, Lee?
I do a lot of things. See, I go to the gym, I read, I watch animation, I draw, and I paint.
Yeah, I think I've seen you're kind of a pretty talented animation artist, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, as traditional, but I've moved a little to the digital area, but I still practice traditional every now and then.
But if there's anything you wanted to say to shout out, or to plug for yourself or for this hysterical society,
You guys do have my Instagram, you can see my art there.
yes, I will definitely link to your Instagram in the show notes because it really is amazing art. And so I encourage everybody who's listening to this right now to go check it out. But amazing. Well, I am so grateful for people like you, for men who are allies helping us out with the cause. I really appreciate you joining me today. This is going to be a great episode. Excited to be able to hear different voices and different perspectives from our male allies. So keep on keeping on and being awesome and being one of our allies and getting your messages out there and keep helping me. You keep sending me great articles. So I really appreciate that.
Bye bye.
We are the universe, so beautiful. Through all of the hurt, we'll stand invincible, so beautiful. We'll take on the world. 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 We'll take on the world.